All right, let's talk about a battle that honestly should have been impossible. We're diving into the Siege of Alesia, a story of pure military genius, raw courage, and a strategic gamble so huge it would decide the fate of an entire people and put a Roman general on the fast track to becoming a dictator. So, how do you do that? How do you attack a fortress when you yourself are surrounded? Well, that was the insane strategic nightmare Julius Caesar had to solve back in 52 BC. His army was trapped, caught in a pincer of his own making, where the only options were total victory or complete annihilation. Okay, so just picture this for a second. In front of you is the fortress of Alesia, packed with 80,000 Gallic warriors. Behind you, a massive relief army, Caesar himself claimed it was 250,000 strong, is thundering down on your position. And you're stuck right in the middle, with just 60,000 legionaries. So, yeah, how in the world did he get himself into a mess like that? To really get how Rome's greatest general ended up in this kind of desperate spot, you have to understand that this wasn't an accident. This was a calculated all-or-nothing gamble in a war that had pushed both sides to their absolute limit. I mean, just look at these numbers. The scale of the challenge is just staggering. Now, okay, Caesar probably juiced his numbers a bit for the folks back home, propaganda, but even modern historians think he was outnumbered at least 3-1. He wasn't just fighting an army, he was fighting an entire nation that had finally united against him. And he was caught, literally, in the middle of a giant strategic fight. Yeah, a situation this crazy doesn't just pop up out of nowhere. This was the boiling point after 6 long, brutal years of war across all of Gaul. The Romans had been stomping all over them, but the harder they pushed, the more the Gauls were determined to push back. And that's what led to this massive rebellion. You see, after years of Rome picking off the Gallic tribes one by one, the Gauls finally found a leader who could bring them all together, this incredibly charismatic chieftain, Vercingetorix. The whole revolt just exploded when they wiped out a Roman garrison at Cinabum, and for the first time, Caesar was actually on the back foot. He even suffered a rare personal defeat at Gergovia. The momentum was completely with the rebellion. So what you have here is a classic showdown, a real duel of wits between two absolutely brilliant and, yeah, ruthless commanders. On one side, you've got Caesar, the master engineer, the political genius, using this war to build his own power base back in Rome. And on the other, Vercingetorix, just as smart, just as charismatic, and he's fighting for something completely different, the very independence of his people. Vercingetorix was smart. He knew he couldn't go head-to-head with the Roman legions and win. So what does he do? He goes for a scorched earth strategy, basically burn everything, destroy the farms, the towns, the food supplies in Caesar's path. The goal was to starve the Roman war machine. And you know what? It almost worked. It forced Caesar to fight desperate sieges just to feed his own men. After a key victory over the Gallic cavalry, Caesar managed to corner Vercingetorix and his main army at the hilltop fort of Alesia. Now he knew a direct assault would be a slaughter, and Vercingetorix probably thought he was safe up there. But Caesar wasn't planning to use swords. He had a completely different weapon in mind: engineering. And this is where things get truly insane. Caesar knew that massive relief army was on its way. So what's his plan? He decides to build a fortress, to besiege another fortress. He builds one 11-mile wall facing inward, the circumvallation, to trap Vercingetorix. Then he builds another, even longer 14-mile wall facing outward, the contravallation, to hold off the relief army. His legions were now the meat in the sandwich. And we're not just talking about a couple of wooden fences here. These 25 miles of fortifications were a pure, multi-layered death trap. His men dug these massive trenches, and even flooded one with river water. They planted rows of sharpened stakes they nicknamed tombstones. They dug camouflaged pits with fire-hardened stakes at the bottom, calling them lilies. And then they just scattered the ground with iron hooks. It was a complete hellscape designed to maim, impale, and absolutely demoralize any attacker. For all the engineering genius, this siege was also just an episode of unimaginable cruelty. As supplies dwindled inside Alesia, Vercingetorix made a horrifying choice. He expelled all the women and children. He figured Caesar would have to take them as slaves and at least feed them. But Caesar, he just refused. He wouldn't let them through his lines, leaving thousands to starve to death in the no-man's land between the armies. A grim, grim reminder of how brutal ancient warfare really was. So, the walls are complete. It took them just over a month, which is incredible. And right on cue, the massive Gallic relief army finally arrives. They set up camp on the hills overlooking the Roman lines. You can just imagine the cheers from the besieged Gauls inside. This was it. The final desperate battle for Gaul was about to begin. The battle raged for 3 straight days. The Gauls threw literally everything they had at Caesar's lines from both inside and out. Day 1 was this huge, chaotic cavalry fight, and the Romans only won because Caesar's elite Germanic cavalry smashed into the Gallic flank. The next night, the Gauls tried a sneak attack in the dark, but they got chewed up by all those Roman traps and artillery. But on the 3rd day, they found a weakness. A section of the wall in the north built on a slope, and they launched a massive 60,000-man assault. This was the make-or-break moment. And the Roman line was on the verge of collapsing. The Gauls were pouring over the defenses. Caesar gets a message from his top lieutenant, Labienus, basically saying, "We're about to be overrun." Seeing that this was the decisive moment for the entire war, Caesar gathered his last reserves, threw on his famous scarlet cloak so every man could see him, and he personally rode into the thick of the fight. As Caesar's charge electrified his men, he unleashed his final gambit. He'd ordered his cavalry to ride wide around the battlefield and attack the Gauls from the rear. So imagine it. You see Caesar himself charging from the front, and then, suddenly, Roman cavalry appears out of nowhere behind you. Morale just shattered. Alesia turned a cold terror. The massive army broke and fled, and the Roman cavalry simply hunted them down. The slaughter was just immense. With the relief army gone, the starving warriors inside Alesia had no hope left. The fate of Vercingetorix and of Gaul itself was sealed. The victory was total. The very next day, Vercingetorix told his council he would surrender to appease the Romans. He rode out in his finest armor, laid his weapons at Caesar's feet, and was taken away in chains. His surviving warriors were given to Caesar's soldiers as slaves, 1 for each man. The Gallic Wars were effectively over. And for the leader of the Gallic resistance, there was no mercy. Vercingetorix was held in a Roman dungeon for 5 years. Then, in 46 BC, he was paraded through the streets of Rome as the ultimate prize in Caesar's victory parade, a public spectacle designed purely to glorify his conqueror, before being taken to a prison and ritually executed. And this is why Alesia matters so much. This one battle didn't just conquer a territory, it secured Gaul for Rome for the next 5 centuries. It made Caesar the most powerful and wealthy man in Rome, and it gave him a fiercely loyal veteran army. That victory is what led directly to him crossing the Rubicon, starting the Roman Civil War, and ultimately destroying the Republic to lay the groundwork for the rise of emperors. The victory was, without a doubt, a masterpiece of military engineering, strategy, and leadership. But it was built on a campaign that cost 1 million Gallic lives and enslaved 1 million more. It secured Caesar's path to absolute power, leaving us with a final provocative question. Was this a victory for the ages, or was it a grim testament to the price of glory and the true nature of conquest?